Welcome to Sakshi TV's immigration talk show with attorney Dr. Srinivas Kaveti. I am Preeti Mulbagal, your host for the show. Our today's guest is a very well-known, multifaceted, accomplished international attorney who studied law in India, Australia, England, and United States, catering to a diversified clientele across the globe. Dr. Kaveti, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Preeti.
Kaveti Law Firm has about 18 offices around the world and is now opening a branch in Chennai in partnership with Sai Lakshmi IPR and Trademark Consultants, and opening 2 more branches, one in Secunderabad and Dubai in September 2025. Congratulations, Dr. Kaveti.
Thanks.
So you have received many other accomplishments recently, being honored with the Nelson Mandela Excellence Award in Oxford University and Indian Overseas Prize in the Capitol Hill, and being appointed as a legal advisor. So congratulations once again.
Thanks.
So diving right into the topic for today, which is the Visa Bond Pilot Program. So the US Department of State has announced a 12-month Visa Bond Pilot Program set to begin in August 2025. So this move kind of raises important legal, diplomatic, and human rights questions. And we are really fortunate to have you, Dr. Kaveti, an experienced immigration attorney with us, to explain the legal nuances, implications for visa applicants, and what this may mean for future immigration enforcement. So, Dr. Kaveti, can you walk us through the core objective of this Visa Bond Pilot Program?
See, one must understand because earlier when Trump was there during his earlier administration, he wanted to come up with this bond. He said that, he wanted to impose certain bond on certain visitors who are coming to US. It could be a business visa or it could be a visitor visa. The reason is his, saying is that protect Americans. That was his protocol. He says to protect the Americans, we don't want some people from outside coming in and overstaying in the country. And they're also committing some offenses and stuff like that. So to curtail all of that, he's saying that let us have a financial restraint on visitors who are coming to US. It could be tourist visa or it could be a business visa. And the other purpose is to refrain them, people who are not bona fide, those intentions are not bona fide. He wants to refrain them from coming to US. For example, if you see Yemen and Chad, there are some countries, when people are coming from those countries, they're coming and overstaying in the country. See, anybody who comes to US, they come for a few months or few days, either for a visit or for a business purposes. When they're coming and overstaying in the country. So to restrain them, to refrain them from deterring them, he's saying that, okay, if you guys want to take a visa and come to US, okay, fine, we'll give it to you. But there is a bond. You have to give a bond. One must understand what is the meaning of a bond. Under the insurance law, bond means you're giving an undertaking to the sovereign, to the government, saying that, okay, we deposit this money as an escrow, as a trustee. You're keeping this money that I'm promising that I'll come to your country. I'll complete my purpose, either on a visit or on a business purposes. And the time which you gave me, I will leave. I leave the country. So for that, you're depositing certain money with the government. Now the question comes, where do you deposit? The money is actually deposited initially with the IRS, Internal Revenue Service. The Internal Revenue Service is creating another escrow account for immigration, DHS, Department of Homeland Security. So the money will be deposited in that account. And after your, your trip to US, when you're going back to your country, when you go back, you can claim that money back so that the money will come to you back. That is called bond. And, there are questions, when this will start, where they have to pay. Do they have to pay when they come to America, or do they have to pay in the consulate? what the counselor is going to make a decision. Certain individuals, is it for certain individuals or is it for anybody who's coming to the country? They're all going to come up in the future because this month from 20th, this law will come into force. They've already published it in Federal Register. So, they might say, typically they might say 5,000, 10,000 or 15,000. It depends upon the consular officer's discretion.
Okay.
So that's what it is.
So, what legal authority allows the Department of State to impose such a financial bond on the visa applicants?
I mean, a sovereign, because under the executive order, because the president has come out with an executive order. So one must understand in any democratic setup, there are three branches of government. One is legislature, second is an executive, third is judiciary, right? And immigration is an executive branch, and Department of Homeland Security is also an executive branch. So who is the boss? The president is the boss.
Mhm.
And when you go back and see in legislature, which is again, we call them parliament in British and in India parliament. In America, it's called Congress. There is a, Congress and there is a Senate. It's like upper house and lower house, similar to Great Britain. And, even in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, we have similar structure because, because the president is the executive branch head. And if you see parliament type of democracy, prime minister becomes the head. If you see the British parliament or Indian parliament, the prime minister becomes head. So the prime ministers or the presidents have an executive authority to come up with certain executive orders. And that executive order, because he's making a decision, an executive decision, because immigration law is an administrative law. So he could make a decision of executive powers he has. So he can take a decision. He has come up with an executive order, and that executive order now, it's now Department of State and Homeland Security. They're all executive branches. They have a locus standi. They have an authority to collect. It is not collecting the money. They're not using that money. They're going to put that in an escrow account, which is like a trust account. That means you cannot touch that money. When you leave the country, when you fulfill your obligation, they will release that money. It is like this. For example, you get arrested and the police arrest you. They send you into the jail and you're brought before the judge. And the judge said that, okay, I'll release you on a bail bond. So you deposit $5,000. I will release on a bail bond. Once the case is finished, you can go back to the court and say, hey, my case is finished. Can you release that money, that bail bond money? So it is something like a financial security to the government.
Like a deposit.
It's like a deposit. Correct.
In simpler layman words.
Correct. You're right.
So, who exactly will be affected by this program and how will countries be selected or designated?
They have come up with certain countries initially. They said that, Liberia and Mauritania, Papua New Guinea, and that's another small island in Pacific, and Sudan and
So,
Syria.
here we will go into the list of countries later, but if you could give us, how will the criteria for the countries to be selected?
Right. Why they are selecting those countries. People who are coming from those countries are coming and overstaying in the America. Those who are violating the law. So they have selected certain countries and they're saying that people coming from those countries are coming and overstaying in the country. They're violating the immigration law. And that they see as a threat. And anybody who's coming from those countries, it's like a pilot project. And they could include more countries as well. But and the pilot project, those are the countries which I mentioned. There'll be people who are coming from those countries. When they get a visa, the consular officer will say, okay, now pay a bail bond for 5,000 or 10,000 or 15. 15 is max. So they have to deposit that. That means they have to buy a bond and show it to the consular affairs. Then they'll be able to travel.
So, in that case, are individuals from countries with good travel records or green card sponsors also at risk of being asked to post a bond? Or no, I guess, right?
It is again, as you said, risk means the discretion of the Consular Affairs. As on today, it's not very clear, but there's a possibility. But if you're a green card holder, means you have a right to come and live in America permanently. That's called resident alien card. So that means you're not a threat. You have a right to come and live. But it could be to, I mean, initially they said visitors, non-immigrant people, B1 and B2. They have not, classified other people into this.
Okay, so what happens if somebody is unable to pay this bond? And does it mean that it's an automatic visa denial?
It is not a visa denial. After getting a visa, the officer will ask you to make a bail bond, sorry, a bond. If you don't pay, definitely you will not be allowed to come because you might get a visa, but they might even put a restriction on a visa that after you do the bail, bond, that you will be allowed to go. It is not like a denial if you're not paying it. It is not a denial of visa. It is a restriction on a visa of traveling. There's a difference between denial of a visa and putting restrictions on a visa. For example, if you see some visitor visas, there is a annotation called multiple travel. That means you can come and go within 6 months if they give 6 months visa or 10 years visa. And if you see in H1B, there is a annotation called multiple travel. You can come and go. But there are certain visas, for example, you're coming on a K visa, fiancé visa, you're coming. It's a non-immigrant visa. It doesn't have a multiple travel. It's only have a single travel. That means you can come to US, get married and file green cards. So the annotation will say these are the restrictions on the visa. And for example, if you see J1 visa, right? J1 visa, there is a restriction that you could stay back in US and change the status, or sometimes there is a home country requirement that you have to go back. And there are, for example, if you're coming on a C1D visa, which is a crew, for example, you're working in this ship cruise, and you can come and get into the ship crew here. Let's say that you're a guy, you're from Bombay, and your ship is starting from Florida. It is going to all Caribbean islands, but you're a crew member of that ship. So what you do, you come from Bombay to Florida. You're coming on a C1D visa. You can get into the ship and go travel back and come back to Florida, and then take a plane and go back to your country. You cannot stay in the country on a C1D visa. Even if you get married to some green card holder or citizen, you cannot get a green card. If you want to go to school, you cannot get a F1 visa. If somebody offers you a job, you cannot get an H1. So there are certain restrictions on certain visas you cannot do. So that would be a restriction. It's not a denial.
Right, understood. So, how will this bond be returned? What form?
Good question. Yeah, once after their return to their home country, once they fulfill all the conditions of the visa, when they go back, they can claim that money and they can apply in their home country. They will get the money.
Oh, in their home country,
Yes.
not in the US.
No, they have to leave and they have to inform the government saying that we left the country. You have to inform the consulate. Then, because they will see you're, departing the country. Because when you go to the airport, when you bought a ticket, the airlines authorities, the airlines agents, they have to inform to the immigration and custom enforcement that you departed from the country, and that will be in their system. So once they see that you departed from the country, they'll give the money back.
So that'll be in terms of account transfers?
Yeah, I mean, either there could be an account transfer or a check or whatever. I mean, that's for the local logistics.
Okay. So what are the legal consequences of overstaying under this program?
If you overstay, that the purpose of putting this bond is if you overstay, they will confiscate your money. You will not get the money back. It's called confiscation of the bail bond money.
Okay.
It's a bond money. You will not get it. So the money is gone.
Okay. Okay. So, will the visa applicants have any right to appeal or contest the bond requirement?
I don't think so, because it is not a right, it's an obligation. When there is a right, you have a right to appeal or right to ask for any remedy. When it is an obligation, there is no remedy. For example, I give an example. If you're husband and wife, husband has got some children, wife has some children, and if the husband decides to divorce or leave the children, a husband cannot go to court and say, hey, I cannot support my children, so he cannot make an appeal. You have an obligation to support your children for child support. You cannot say, oh, I don't have a job, I can't support. No, there is an obligation, legal obligation, to take care of your wife and children. That you cannot shirk. You cannot make an appeal. There's no remedy. You're obligated to take care of it. For example, you're living in America. You cannot say that, oh, I don't have a job, I cannot pay taxes. For example, if you have a house, you have an obligation to pay municipal tax, right? You cannot say that, oh, I'm not living in that house, I don't want to pay tax to the municipality. That is an obligation. So there are certain obligations and rights. So, I mean, this is an obligation, you have to do it.
Understood. So, is there any risk of discrimination or bias on how this policy is applied across countries or individuals?
Good question. Yes, there's a possibility, because they're all human beings. We're all human beings. The immigration officers and everybody, they all have bias, and possibility will be there. But as per the US law, they cannot discriminate based on the race, gender, religion, and color. But as per the US law, yes, you cannot discriminate based on that. But however, these officers are all federal officers working overseas, and they're in a foreign land. Do you have any remedy? The answer is no, because you don't have no right to sue these foreign federal officers overseas. Because if you want to file any discrimination complaint, you have to file it in discrimination board in America. That's number one. Number two, when you're going for a visa, you don't have a right. Visa is not a right. And when you don't have a right, when there is no breach of right, there's no remedy. So unfortunately, the law says cannot be discriminated, equality of law, equal protection of law under the US Constitution, and fair due process, fairness, all those dogmas are there. But when it goes to reality, I mean, things do happen because it's all human. The discretion, you cannot challenge the discretion of an officer. If you go before the judge and the judge doesn't like your face or doesn't like your color, he gives a certain order because he has a discretion, he can do it. You cannot challenge his discretion. So similar to that, executive branch officers also have a discretion. You cannot challenge it.
Okay. Yeah. I remember when we applied for visas, when we were newly coming into this country, they always told us it depends on the officer's mood.
Yes, definitely. I mean, background of the person and your, the way you behave and your documentation, absolutely you're right. Sometimes officers have a bad day, you're going on a Monday morning, there's a Monday-itis, and sometimes you're going on a Friday evening, they're very tired, they want to go home, they have other plans. So human, relationships, psychology also plays a major role. The reason is because I have lived in Australia, I've taken a visa there. I've lived in England, I've taken a visa there. I've lived in Canada, lived in America. So I've got at least 20, 30 countries visas. So I always have been to so many countries and I've read the laws of so many countries. I mean, there's human discretion is always there. You cannot challenge it. So, I mean, there are certain things you can challenge, certain things you cannot. So it's better to be in your best behaviorism and, dress up well, look into the eyes of the officer, don't look here, don't look there. simple mistakes, because in our country, if you see coming from Asian countries like India, Bangladesh or Pakistan, most of the times for the men, for the women, we tell don't look into the eyes of a man and talk. But if you go to an immigration officer and if you don't look into the eyes and talk, the officer thinks that you're lying because that's the body language they have. It's a
Suspicion.
small thing, cultural thing. But if you don't look into the officer's eyes and don't answer it, in good old days, they said any senior people or elderly people don't look into their eyes and answer the questions. Put your head down and don't look into the eyes. If you do the same thing when you go to an officer, any Anglo-Saxon officer or a judge, then they think that you're lying. So
Mm,
it's a cultural thing. There are so many things like this I share with my
mm,
clients when I'm talking and when I'm preparing them for interviews and other things. Yeah.
mm, mm. True. So, do you actually believe this approach will reduce visa overstays?
Yes, definitely. Yes. That is their intention. That's their motive. And earlier, when Trump administration was there in the power, he wanted to come, but he could not do it. When the Biden came, it was not enforced. But now, when he has come in the power again, he's doing it, and he's doing a lot of things. I mean, things are working out. Of course, it will have some impact on tourism, because recently, when you see people traveling to Mexico and Canada, and all the airlines are reducing their, giving some, reducing the charges, prices of airlines when you want to travel to certain countries. Definitely, it is going to have an impact on economics, because every time when you see, this is again, policies also have an effect on economics, and it will have an effect on the tourism. It will affect the relationship with other countries. Definitely, it's going to affect diplomacy. I mean, that's the side effect of all those decisions which are made by the politicians in every country.
Right. So, when and where can we find this list of covered eligible countries and the bond amounts?
It's when anybody can Google in Department of State, and
Mhm.
Department of State governs all the visa regulations, and it also governs the consulates. And one
Mhm.
has to go and do some research in Department of State, and it is of course in Washington, but they have offices all over the world. I mean, if you see, they also have officers in Delhi, and in every consulate and embassy, they can check it out online. It's there. Everything is there online.
Okay. So, will you be able to provide a breakdown of the bond calculation criteria?
Mean, I don't think so. I have any information on that. That
Mhm.
I mean, the only officers are saying 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. Again, it's a discretion of the officer. I mean, because it's just a deposit with the government, sovereign. I mean, I don't think so. They would give any accounting, because I don't think so. Because even when you go to the court, when the judges say, this is the bail bond, you pay the bail bond, the judges also don't give any accounting, saying that, sometimes they'll also have surcharge. Sometimes the courts impose certain surcharge, and the bail bond companies have surcharge, because when you're trying to buy a bail bond, the bail bond companies have a charge when they give you this thing. I guess depends upon what bail bond company you're going through, and so many logistics will come out eventually. I don't think so. We have anything in detail at this time.
Okay, okay. So, are there better or less punitive alternatives to achieve the same goal, you think?
Well, because the problem is you're coming from those countries, the list of countries. If you have a passport from those countries, I mean, those individual, those citizens could be in another country. For example, if you see, there are a lot of Filipinos, Indians, and Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, national, they are living in Dubai. If you see Middle East, I mean, they're residents there. And many of them also live in Europe. Many of them live in other parts of Africa and Asia and other parts. Somebody lives in Japan. When you go into those countries, visa for US, then it might not apply,
Mhm.
because you're living in other countries, and of course the officer is also going to see what is your domicile, what is your travel history, what is your background, depends upon other factors as well. these are all mitigating things,
Mhm.
strong travel history and your financial history, your
Mhm.
employment and your visit purposes. Sometimes, diplomats do travel from those countries. They might not impose, for example, diplomats traveling from Liberia or Papua New Guinea or from Syria, Sudan. They cannot impose that on diplomats, saying that pay 15,000 or 5,000 or 10,000. They look at those factors as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, so if this pilot program is deemed successful, so do we see bonds becoming a permanent or a wider requirement?
Well, until the present Trump administration, yes, it will be. And we don't know when the new, administration comes. They might revoke this policy or they might make changes. We don't know. But as on today, if anybody challenges, we don't know this policy. If it goes to the court of law again, and if there are any immigration advocates or anybody, if they challenge, we don't know. But as on today, that's the law of the land.
Okay. So, how should the families, tourists, business travelers prepare if they are from these countries that might be affected?
Well, they have to do prior planning because they have to have money. Otherwise, they might get a visa, but if they have a restriction saying that you cannot travel without a bond, they cannot travel. What good is that? So
Mm,
prior preparations are paramount for these
mm,
guys. And again, it might not apply, as I said, to different, people from different parts of the world and diplomats and maybe people who have good travel history and other things. And the officer might not say pay the bond, it depends upon the discretion as well sometimes.
mm.
So, there are so many factors because it's still a pilot and it's not enforced yet. We might not be able to comment more on this.
Okay. So, what is the form that is required to be filled? And could you take us through the process of filling the form?
I think that form is, to be honest with you, I have to verify my notes.
352,
Yeah,
I-352.
that's the form. And if anybody wants, definitely, any attorney can assist them. And most of the forms on USCIS website, they're all self-explanatory. I mean, they're
Mm,
all in simple, plain English, and they should be able to make use of Google or ChatGPT for filling up
mm,
those forms. And you
mm,
can also ask the consulates also. There is a phone number for each and every consulate. You can call them and find out also for some extra help. And there are so many pro bono attorneys in America. There are so many forums in America. If you email them, text them, they might be able to assist them in filling up that form.
Okay. Okay. And sir, before we close, what advice would you offer to someone from an affected country who's planning to apply for a B1 or a B2 visa later this year?
I don't advise them, and by law we cannot advise. We can only suggest them that they should, as there is a saying called "buyer be aware." If somebody is planning to get a B1, B2 visa to America, they have to first see what country they come from and their background, their travel history, and then strong ties to their country, and see whether are there any restrictions. Because many countries, they have closed the consulates. We ought to see whether the consulate is on and look at whether the availability of visa, you can get any slot, and what is the time frame, how long does it take, and then if you're coming from those countries which I mentioned, then consider planning your financial resources. If you get a visa, then if they ask you to do a bond, you have to have the money readily. That's a lot of money. These countries like Syria, Yemen, and Liberia, this is a lot of money. 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. It's a lot of money to deposit. So you got to plan up all of those and be informed. And I would say, once you're informed, once you go back and read the website, and these days you can also use Chat GPT or translation apps so that you can read in your own language. I guess
Mhm,
once you read everything and be informed, you should
mhm.
be able to, get your visas and travel smoothly and go back and then claim your money back. That's what my suggestion would be. I would not say advice, because we cannot advise. We can only give a suggestion, because this is only information purposes. We do videos, and you guys also do for the information purpose, educational purposes. This cannot be construed as an attorney-client relationship, and no legal relationship, just information. Yeah.
True, true. Thank you so much, Dr. Kaveti, for all your valuable insights and very important information on this new visa bond pilot program. And viewers, please feel free to get in touch with Kaveti Law Firm for any of your immigration questions hereafter. Thank you so much, Dr. Kaveti, for being on our show. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.